Hi, welcome. We're so glad you decided to join us today. I am Derek Lim, and I'm co-hosting this event with Jessica, Jose. I am butchering his name here. I apologize, and Grace as well. Um, I am a graduate of 2019, and I'm part of the graduates of the last decade. Let me pass on my time to the rest of them.
Yes. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, everybody, for joining, landing your first internship as an international student. My name is Jessica Wilson. I serve as the Associate Director for Master's Career Development at our Career Center. So if you are a master's student, international student, please come by the Career Center and schedule an appointment via handshake so that we can help you get an internship and a job. And I'll pass it over to Josue.
Hello, everybody. My name is Josue. I work at the Career Center as well, along with Jessica. I work with the undergraduate international students here at UC San Diego. Thank you all for being here. We have a great lineup of alumni ready to give you guys some tips, information. So hopefully you guys take some good notes, ask some questions at the end, and try to pick their brain as much as possible. I'll pass it over to Grace.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Fuller. I use she, her pronouns, and I get to serve as the manager of international experience and engagement over at the International Services and Engagement Office. So we are so excited to work closely with the Career Center and graduates of the last decade. Shout out to Derek, and alumni to be able to offer these types of events. I do have a short disclaimer before we jump in. So the Career Center and our alumni folks are experts when it comes to networking and making those connections and finding those career development opportunities. When it comes to work authorization as an international student, please meet with ISEO. We are here for you, and we would love to talk to you about the type of work authorization you might need in order to pursue some of these career and development opportunities. So I'll put some helpful links in the chat. I worked at ucsd.edu, and we're also offering a series of workshops this quarter about our various work authorizations. I'll put that in the chat as well. But we're really excited to be here and be able to host this wonderful event. So thank you for bringing us all together. I'll give it back to you, Derek.
Thank you all. So as we get started, again, thank you for joining us on this very exciting session called Landing Your First Internship as an International Student. I personally know how challenging, but also very rewarding that it can be to really navigate the internship process, especially as an international student. So this is basically the first of two sessions for this year. Hopefully, if this is a success and that all of you like it, where we'll kind of dive into kind of key aspects of lending and making the most of your internship opportunities. We'll explore topics including that of the application process. I'm sure Jasmine and Diva here, who will be taking most of the time here to talk to y'all, you'll be able to kind of understand the differences between CPT and OPT, navigating all of that AIP requirements if you've chosen CPT, as well as leveraging all of the tools and resources that UC San Diego has to offer. We'll also talk about other important considerations like choosing between summer and quarter internships, how to approach structured versus typical internships, and the differences between paid and unpaid opportunities. Ultimately, it's about sharing insights, and I really want this session to be as informative as well as informal as possible. So keep in mind a few different questions as we try to go through today's discussions. I will start. I have kind of introduced myself. I'm a class of 2019. I have been involved in a few different student groups here when I was at UC San Diego, and I'm currently in I guess, two positions. I work at a nonprofit doing strategic finance under the CFO, as well as I am a senior specialist at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I'm starting up a new group that kind of looks at how grants are being managed, especially those that are focused on operational ones. Some of my internships highlights during my time at UCSD is as listed. So feel free to chat me up, talk about it. But today it's not about me. I want to leave you some questions here that you could potentially think about, like why are the internships important for your career goals, and what skills and experience you already have? Do you want it to be more aligned with those, or do you want to expand on them? So I will pass the time to Jasmine, who will give us an introduction and hopefully cover some of her experiences.
Hello, I hope everyone can see me and hear me okay. My name is Jasmine. I graduated in 2022 with majors in data science and math econ. And I listed some of the student groups I participated in. So if you're interested in any of them, feel free to reach out to me. And I'm currently a data scientist at Verisk Analytics, which we're focused on global risk intelligence. And in the summer 2021, which is my junior year, I was a data science summer associate at Verisk. So next slide, please. So I just want to go over my career development timeline. This is something I did as a reference, but I also included some of the lessons I learned, things I wish I would have done. So just as a reference for you, there are a lot of options you can take on, but this is my journey. So for my first year, I just spent 2 quarters on summer classes because I didn't have a lot of AP class and I was a little disadvantaged in choosing my major courses. So I just took on classes to sort of boost my GPA and also get more credits in. But looking back, I wish I also got a head start on doing some other certification and hard skill development. There are a lot of resources like Coursera. You can find almost all kinds of lessons on there. And for coding, there's HackerRank and LeetCode. I wish I started developing these skills, especially with certification, something paper that you can put on your resume early on. I think later on, I realized that recruiters want to see that you're not just a good student, you also are you're a go-getter who starts developing early. So this is something I wish I would have done early on. And I also wish I joined the pre-professional organization early on, because even though at the time, I didn't feel like I really needed it, I was just being a good student. It really took a lot later on I realized it took a lot of practice to become ready for interviews, etc. So if you join those professional orgs, they can help you be more organized and also have more industry tailored help. And then my second year, I did a CPT internship through Handshake, and I reached out to a professor to be my AIP mentor. The internship went smoothly, and for my mentor, he just requested me to write him a report every month, just kind of update what I'm doing without exposing company secret. And at the end of it, I did almost a closing interview. I just had a 30-minute call with him to update him, and that went smoothly. And I think a lot of professors do it this way. They want you to still show something for your internship since you do get credits from it. But I think an alternative option is to do research. This is something you can do while you're in class. It doesn't have to be a summer. After I graduated, I realized that I didn't have a lot of research experience, and in the industry, they value research a lot more than internship, especially something that's publishable. So if you're looking for something to do while you're in class, like a part-time research, I would recommend you to reach out to professors to be a RA. And then if there's something you want to research on during the summer, then I would recommend choosing research over internship that is not the most related to the company you want to work at. And then in my third year, I did the mass apply internship for a full-time offer. So if you want to intern the summer of your junior year, then you should start applying the fall of your junior year because some of the applications do close early. And without going into more details, I'll recommend you to have an application tracker to organize your result and also start networking early. And LinkedIn Premium, I actually really recommend. It is not too much money, but it makes you open up a lot more to the recruiters. You can see who's looking at you. You can compare yourself to the other applicants. So I'll recommend doing that just during that 1 year you're looking for this most important internship. And in my 4th year, I secured my return offer. And I just went for it because this company allowed me to do a rotation program. So I get to try different things with the job security. And as international students, job security is top connection. So I chose that, but I think hindsight, I should have used this return offer as a leverage to just recruit more, and that even if I don't go as intense, should have applied more just to have more leverage and also no regret. But lastly, one thing I regret not doing is maintaining connection with your professors. Because I didn't want to do research, I didn't want to be an academic, I didn't do research, so I didn't have a close relation with my professors. And I had no plan to go back to school. But now, thinking back, I am actually applying to grad school for the fall of this year. One thing is to just pivot in my career, but also I didn't get my first 2 H-1Bs. So if I don't get my last H-1B in March or April, then I will have no other options but to go back to school. So something to keep in mind, even if you do go into industry, is to leave some backup plans for just in case that lottery doesn't work out. So that's a little overview of my timeline, but next slide, I'll go into some more details. And then I'll just go into some more techniques I used. The first thing, very general, have an application tracker and keep a record of your resume points. The tracker is for you to set weekly goals and also just track the requirements, anything you're missing. But for the resume points, I kept the record of everything I've ever done. And then for each role, I picked and choose which experiences to put on based on the job description. The reason why is that this year, I actually was on the hiring committee for some interns, and I got to see what goes on behind the scene. And the first thing that happens when your application is received is it does go through an AI that it looks for your resume and how much it matched the job description. And if you don't have enough keywords that get picked up, then your resume never reach a recruiter's desk. So without lying or exaggerating, you should tailor your resume based on the job description. So just keep a record of everything you've done, every project you've done, every, I guess, leadership opportunity. And then depending on the job description, you're putting different points to it. And a last recommendation is to do a cover letter whenever the option exists, especially for the ones that you really want to go to. Because even though the cover letter you might think is kind of saying the same thing as your resume, the effort you put in is a huge bonus point for recruiters. And then next thing, I actually want to jump to the third point, because I think this is also more general about just internship search in general, is to network with people almost the summer before you want to get that internship. The reason to do it early, one, is to invest in your time to the relationship. If you cold email someone online, then they might not give you a referral just from one meeting. They want to know who you are, and then they want to trust you enough to vouch for you, because if they vouch for you and you're not performing, then it will reflect badly on them as well. So you want to start networking early so you invest in that relationship. And another thing is to practice talking about yourself, your experiences, your goal, your plans for the future, and what do you see as the vision of the field. When you're researching the person, you want to look at their experiences and see how that can help you. Don't just reach out to anyone who works at the company you want to go to, But instead, when you're cold calling them or cold emailing them, show your research. Instead of saying, hey, I see that you work here, I want to work here, can we please talk? Do something like, hey, I see you have a project on XYZ, and I am interested in another XYZ. So hopefully you can give me some advice on how I can improve myself. So be specific about how they can help you as well. So it's more likely to get that networking call you want. And then jumping back to the second point about navigating sponsorship and the cultural difference. The first step is to research the company and the job description. Companies like NASA or those defense companies just naturally won't hire international students. So you won't really need to waste time on it. And if the job description says something like visa sponsorship provided, then you're definitely safe, and they will provide. If it says visa sponsorship provided, it will provide everything up to green card, I believe. But double check on that. Things might have changed. And then in terms of disclosing your status, my strategy was to do it at the end of my first interview. The reason is that I don't want to plant a subconscious thing for the interviewer. I don't want them to start thinking about, oh, I need to put more legal resources for this person. I need to send in this extra form for them. So I think just to present yourself as someone, just as a qualified candidate, and then disclose at the end of the interview. And depending on what you want out of the internship, you can ask for things from CPT all the way up to green card. And then lastly, about the corporate culture in America, I think I'm Chinese. So growing up, I was always, the culture I'm used to is like being humble, don't stand out too much. There's so many analogies about that. But I think in the interview culture, you really want to stand out. You want to be very confident about your storytelling and be very specific about your plans for the future. And that's kind of where all that networking comes from. You got all the practice, you will know who you are, you will know where you want to go in the future, and you will know how the company can help you get there and how you can, in return, help the company get to where they want to be. So having all that practice in the networking will help you just fit into that culture, which is also very important on top of your skill level, I think, for your industry experience. So that's just an overview of my experience and my advice. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn and also on Triton Connect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. Very, very smart tips and very insightful. So thank you for that. I already have a few questions, and I'm sure all of you also have some questions. We will move on to, we'll pass the time on to Diva, who can actually talk to us more about their experience as well. And then hold your thoughts and hold your questions. And once Diva's done chatting, we'll open it up to everyone, or you can type it in the chat and we can start talking and start moderating the discussions. So Diva, take it away.
Here. Hi. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for having me. These types of events and seminars and talks are the ones that, help me the most as well, even now. So, yeah, I'm very happy to be here and help out in any way that I can. Maybe my journey will help you guys understand yours better. And well, I am a master's in bioengineering student, a former master's in bioengineering student at UCSD. I graduated in September last year, and these are some student groups that I formed part of while I was at UCSD. And I mentioned this because developing yourself out of the lab, well, in my case, a lab, but out of the classes as well is very, very important. It makes you more relatable, makes you more human during the interviews, in general during your life. So yeah. And my current position after graduating is I am a research tech at La Jolla Institute of Immunology, currently applying to graduate programs because that's my dream. I want to do a PhD. And today I want to specifically focus on this, one part of my journey, which was my summer 2023 internship, which helped me answer a lot of questions about my career development and, in general, my aspirations in academia or industry. So I was a protein sciences intern at Cytomics Therapeutics in South San Francisco, for which I had to relocate and explore a beautiful city with which I fell in love with. So yeah, I would love to talk to you about that in the next slide. So my first year of my master's in bioengineering, I very much focused on the mandatory courses. I did volunteering, community development in order to build a nice narrative. So I used to like give classes in elementary school, and that like really helped me focus. Even now, whenever I write, statement of purposes and stuff, it's like, hey, I really value education, and this is what I've done in order to prove that, right? And I found a research lab, thankfully, which fits my purpose. It's cancer research. And you know what, the first year especially, I had this, huge doubt in my head, academia versus industry. What do I want to do? So in this case, Jessica Wilson actually at the Career Services Center helped me out a lot. I went on Handshake. I reached out to her and I scheduled an appointment at a time. And we decided on exploring options in the industry as well, because all my life I had been in academia, and exploring is good, exploring is learning. So in March 2023, I looked out for summer internships. So for this, I networked with seniors in my lab, actually, and in my cohort. And some of them had already done internships the previous year. And they helped me, like, they gave me some tips that literally, some tips like Jasmine was talking about, or I'm talking about right now. And that really helped me. And then I also reached out to the UCSD International Services and Engagement Office. So Grace is here with us today from there. And they have a really nice alumni employment data sheet. So that data sheet, they introduced me to that data sheet, and that literally tells you which employers have accepted international students from UCSD in the past, and they're still accepting. So that was like really nice to see which employers I can reach out. And based on this, I discussed 5 job descriptions at the end of my lookout for summer internships with Jessica. So, and I also, like, while shortlisting these 3 internship positions I ended up applying to, I revisited my purpose, right? What do I want to do? And these internships have to align with what I want to do, what my purpose is, which is cancer research. So, yeah, and then the applying part. So the applying part is not as easy as I had thought. For this, I had a workshop organized by the Idea Engineering Center, and it was a CV resume workshop. So there, along with multiple people, I was working on my resume. I was getting feedback from like so many people, professionals, or even like other students, and that was a very good activity. But I also had a one-on-one meeting, follow-up meeting with Jessica. I tailored my CV, I tailored my cover letters, and also very good advice would be like to actually download the LinkedIn Premium. Trust me, those $40+ are like very worth it. And you can network, and it is very useful to get referrals as well. So when I was interviewing, I did reach out to people in the company that I wanted to apply to, and I did get referrals. So in those, first message that he sent on LinkedIn in order to, reach out with the purpose of getting a referral, I usually used to introduce myself, focus on my passion, focus on my journey, attach my CV, and then also explain to them how this opportunity can help me follow my passion, right? And follow my journey. Like you have to have a narrative there. So also during the interview process and a couple other challenges as an international student that I faced. So I did mock interviews with Jessica as well, and I gathered references during this time by my professors. So really important to keep in touch with the professors you have worked with, professors you are working with. And ISEO, the International Students Office, helped me a lot with my CPT process. And I also had a really particular situation during this time. My PI was against me doing an internship. So that was also a very particular conversation that I had to have with my PI. So for that, I really recommend having a lot of patience, being very calm, and not damaging any bridges, like not because I came back from my internship and I still worked for this professor. So no damaging bridges, like be very calm, very patient, put yourself out there, explain yourself. And also the challenge of relocating to SF, which, yeah, I mean, the company helped me out with it, but make sure they do if in case you have to relocate. And then my summer internship is Cytomics Therapeutics. So these are things that I did during the internship. So you got to network with employees from departments that I'm interested in. So like I used to go to multiple departments, not just the one that I worked in. And I used to ask them questions like, how did you get into this? What did you do when you were, my age? Or like, did you do a PhD? Do you really need a PhD to do this? Or do you not need a PhD to do this? So those types of questions like really help you clarify what do you want to do and how to get there. And ask so many questions. It doesn't matter, and get answers. And also during this time of the internship, gather inspirations for your next steps. I was very inspired when I came back. I was like very inspired to do grad school. I was like, I want this position in the internship. So, like in this company that I worked in. So I have to do these things. In the next slide, I will continue to explain some resources that I had. So I include some I include this link here on the QR code, but Grace has already provided it in chat, I saw. So yeah, if you're looking for CPD-friendly employers, and this can help with the process as well. So as compared to Jasmine, I disclosed my status in the very beginning, maybe because I already knew that these companies have hired international students before, and they, like already, they already are familiar with the paperwork and they're not going to be like, what? F1, what? CPT, what? So yeah, they are already going to be familiar. That's why I was like very open about it. I did not hesitate. And also you need guidance, resources, one-on-one help, reach out to the Handshake. It's very easy to schedule a one-on-one appointment with professional people out there to help you. The Career Services Center is great. Jessica is great. And there are so many other people who can help you out with different things. So right now I'm applying to grad school actually, and the Career Services Center is still helping me because they have a portal for PhD applications as well, even for alumni. So like that's super cool. And yeah, I really appreciate it. And LinkedIn Premium, very important. Connect with anyone. It helps you connect with anyone, and that's awesome. You don't have any limitations or boundaries. That's good. And being an international student, yeah, I already talked about this. Also, one very important thing, finding purpose and answers is very important throughout your whole journey. Don't just focus on classes. Don't just focus on lab research. I was very scared during my last year of master's, but I ended up even like publishing a paper during my master's that is helping me get into like grad school right now. So, if you have your passion right, purpose right, you'll get there. And also very important, be more human, be more relatable. So like in my internship, during my internship, they used to have board games, gym, and even like during playing those board games, going to the gym, I used to connect with people. I even connected with the CEO of that company because he used to gym every day at the same hours. So that's awesome, right? Be more relatable, be more human, keep connections on LinkedIn, talk to people, remember their birthdays, their names, wish them, Happy New Year's, Happy Christmas is also very good, like connecting point. And yeah, on the end note, connect with me on LinkedIn. And do not forget to use all the resources that you guys have. They're very useful. They're out there. And yeah, connect with seniors as well, or people who have already graduated. They can always help you. That's it. Thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you, Diva. That was so inspirational. Where can we listen to your podcast full time? Jokes aside, I personally never knew about the company list that ISEO has. So I would say take advantage of that resource, because for me it was just I felt like I was just knocking on every single door trying to figure that out, and then getting really upset that even though I was verbally offered a job, they wouldn't sponsor my visa. So well, I love these tips. So I guess we'll move to the next part of this um I guess this discussion. I really want to open it up to anyone here who would like to raise some questions. I'm not able to kind of look at the chat as I'm sharing my screen here, but feel free to, if anyone is more eloquent, feel free to throw the questions our way, and everyone here should be able to answer.
Hi, I have a question for Jasmine. So for data science, like what companies do you recommend?
I think I chose data science because it's so flexible. It can go into any industry. They'll have data science demands. So I guess that depends on what are you interested in. Are you interested in finance, like health, entertainment?
Like right now, either like machine learning or just data analytics, or more preferably like machine learning, but that's rare for undergrad. Maybe like I don't know, like maybe something related to bio is good, something related to finance I can do it. So it's like basically like what during your years in UCSD, like which companies have you heard a lot that your friends interned at?
I know that for like if you want to look for the top companies for machine learning, just in terms of project and compensation, you should look at Netflix and Spotify. They probably have the most innovative machine learning projects and has the best compensation. But if you want to look into like bio, I'm sorry, I'm not really familiar with that. But I will say bioinformatics and health analytics has become a very in-demand field. So there hasn't been a lot of machine learning done in health. Like there's machine learning for research, for DNA research, but not a lot for analyzing like health insurance or health policy. So you can look into health analytics. There might be a lot of demand and openings because people have just been pouring into finance and tech, but in health, I think there's a lot more demand right now, and just it's less concentrated as the other fields. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much.
Derek, there are some questions in the chat if we want to get to those as well.
Sorry, I am still trying to figure this out as I'm sharing my screen. Let me get to it.
I can also ask it. So they were asking the difference between CPT and OPT, right? Which is curricular practical training versus optional practical training. And they're looking for an explanation on SEO's website. If we can explain about it, we can put some links. But if Jasmine or Diva, you want to explain your understanding from your perspective of the differences, and we'll put the links in the chat as well.
Yeah, I can share. Basically, the essential difference at CPT is what you do while you're in school. So they're either internships or part-time internships while you're in class. So if you want to do a CPT, you have to enroll in a course with your department. For me, I did math 197, and I think for most department is the 197 class. So the CPT, basically, in order for you to intern, you need to do it as like a class. So in order for you to be compensated as an intern, you have to do it as a class. And that's why you need to find a mentor, basically a professor to sponsor you. So if you got an internship offer, then you need to enroll in that class. And for OPT, it's your full time. You're no longer in school. You are just it's like a student work visa. And if you're non-STEM, you have OPT for a year. But if you're STEM, you have a STEM OPT. So it's a 2-year extension on top of that initial year. And during that OPT, you will apply to the H-1B, which actually remind me of something. I recommend you to not graduate early. I graduated a quarter early, and that ended up messing up my OPT. I know I wanted to save tuition because international student tuition is crazy, but I ended up graduating in March, which means my OPT started in May. That was the latest I can do. So but I didn't start work until July. So I wasted 2 months on my OPT. So depending on your offer letter for the full time, if your full time starts normal, it will be in June or July, then don't graduate early. You'll lose time on your OPT. So that's just something that I think you should keep in mind because I really messed it up. Yeah, that's my perspective. Diva, pass it to you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, whenever I have questions, I just go to ISEO and eat their brains. I'm like, what is this? What is that? What is this? And they're always happy to help. But what difference that I see in CPT versus OPT is that CPT is what I used for my internship while I was enrolled in classes and I was going to go back to school. However, OPT is once I have graduated and I'm no longer considered as a student and no longer enrolled in any classes, but I have the opportunity to work in the US based on my OPT. So it's like a permission that the school gives you. But yes, I would highly recommend to go to ISEO and get like the professional advice for everything.
Thank you both. I actually also wanted to speak a little bit about it. I remember that there was also that you couldn't accumulate more than 12 months of full-time CPT or something like that. And I'm sure Jessica or the Career Center or ISEO will be able to explain it better than we can. But if you do have more than 12 months of full-time CPT, then you would be unable to do your OPT. Apart from that, for me, I took advantage of a lot of unpaid internships or, internships that would pay me X amount only if an investment went through. And so I wasn't really like in need of a lot of CPTs, except for like one or two internships. Um, but that being said, that is from a place of privilege, and if y'all need the funds when y'all are doing the internship, definitely go through the right and legal processes. I think we have another question here. Where can I potentially find internships that are open for freshmen? Or is that a career center question?
So my advice would be to meet with one of the advisors at the Career Center to start discussing kind of like a roadmap for your 4 years at UC San Diego. Handshake is one of the best resources for finding jobs and events and workshops. But beyond that, right, specifically for freshmen, I think you might be looking for a needle in a haystack in terms of a website or a resource. But I think the best first start for you would be to schedule a one-on-one appointment via Handshake, get to know your specific career advisor, because we're tapped into the whole campus community of all of the campus partners in all of our different academic units, right? So we're going to be in touch with what employers are here on campus and what's going on. So I would first schedule a one-on-one with a career advisor.
A side note also you could think about as a freshman is putting any projects you've done in class, volunteer work, things like that, right? That you've done in class, not necessarily internships or jobs. Also like personal projects that you've done, you could add that as well.
Thanks for sharing. I see that there are other questions here, but I am going to actually ask Jasmine and Diva a question. So I know that you've mentioned that you had wished that you've gotten more involved in pre-professional organizations and building a go-getter reputation. What advice would you give to someone who feels like they're starting late? Is it too late to kind of make an impact on their resume or their experience? And what steps can they do to catch up or kind of portray that image for a professional for a potential employer?
Yeah, I think it's never too late to start, definitely. I started looking into professional orgs only in my junior year, and you just need to find a way to spin your story. And for me, it's because I started as a stats major. I wanted to do research, but junior year is when COVID happened, and that's when I realized that it will take too long for me to pursue statistics before I can make an impact on things. It's just the nature of the major. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just not fitting for what I wanted anymore. I wanted something that will directly impact people right away. So that's something that you just need to do that self-discovery, I think. It's never too late to start prepping your resume, anything like that. But I will say, just start to think about what your story would be to kind of explain that. So it's okay, whether no matter what pace you're at, it's okay. But there needs to be like a narrative for it, and you just want to show that you have a plan. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I I completely agree with Jasmine. A narrative is very important, and when I applied for my internship, in order to build a industry-focused narrative, so Jessica helped me a lot with that in the Career Services Center, and also now that I'm applying for grad school, so that is like different, right? Industry, academia. I reached out to my professors, previous or current, and even talking to professors is very important, and they help you. Believe it or not, even if you feel lost, maybe you do have a narrative there, and you might want to like talk to these people who have already done so many things in their life, and they're experts. And talking to them gives you way more clarity on how to spin and how to put your story out there and the narrative in general. So, and it's never too late to like do something new or add something new, uh, to the narrative. You just have to reach out to the correct people, depending on what you want to do.
Oh, thank you. That was very insightful. And just to top off, go off this question, and Quinn here actually had a question regarding their timeline. They're basically asking if they were to graduate as a fourth year and without potentially having anything lined up, is that kind of looking like the end of the world? Or should they still try to do, I guess, kind of some internships to kind of, continue or exploring their passions here? Would that translate into an OPT? Maybe career, ISEO can also comment on this a little. Any thoughts here? I guess if there are no thoughts here, allow me to kind of go first. When I graduated in 2019, it was pretty bleak in terms of sponsorship within the finance industry, and I never envisioned how my career was going to go. I always wanted a 9 to 5 credit analyst kind of role and very much back office where I didn't have to deal with people. And then upon graduation, or actually slightly before graduation, I had 6 different job offers that were verbally given to me, but none of them wanted to sponsor my visa. Heartbroken. I really thought it was the end of the world, but I took a chance on going to, I guess I pivoted my career into more of a legal and compliance. I did global financial crimes for Morgan Stanley, and it was like, $21 an hour. It was not glorious, but eventually, like within the company, I kind of showed my worth. I interviewed for something when it was time for me to start branching out, and I ended up in M&A with Morgan Stanley. So yeah, I hope that this gives you an insight that, life can go in many different ways, and I definitely did not want to do what I was going to do, but here we are. Jasmine, I saw that you unmuted a little. Would you like to elaborate or expand on this a little bit more?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. It's definitely not the end of the world. Don't worry about it. Things will work out. I would just say from a practical standpoint, if that's the situation you're facing, that you need to kind of categorize different types of internship you apply to. It's almost like school apps. You need to have the reach, the match, and the backup plans. I don't know the legal like timeline for it, but I know I had some friends who couldn't land exactly what they wanted, but they kind of just did something kind of to pass them over that period for legal reasons. So I think I would just recommend that while you apply for things that you're very passionate about, also apply to things that are more secure, something just to pass the status over. But don't be discouraged if you end up having to take the things that only hold your status, because it will at most last only a year, and then you can always pivot. So just don't lose hope, it will work out, but also kind of strategize to have some safety nets.
I wanted to add on to this. I have a little story. It's like might be scary because when I graduated from my master's, I don't know how many people are here in research. Dealing with PIs, especially in the research world, academia can be a little difficult. So when I graduated from my master's, and I and my PI was like, "Hey, what's your next step?" And I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna apply to grad school. However, I'm looking for something in the meantime, a paid position." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're free to stay here and volunteer until you apply and get accepted into grad school." I'm like, "Whoa, okay, volunteer." I'm an international student. My parents earn in a different currency that is not dollars. So these things happen, and I decided not to take that volunteering position, obviously. And what I just did is listen. It was a moment that I was like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. This is it. Now I have to find a job. I go to industry or something. But I just reached out to professors that I was really interested for a long time, and one of them offered me a research tech position. So that's what I'm doing while I apply to grad school. You don't have to be without a job while you apply for grad school.
Yeah, I've been reading off of a lot of questions here and asking some of them on my own. Would any of the participants like to unmute themselves and go ahead and ask some questions? Don't be afraid.
Hi, this is Anne, and I asked a question before this about graduating and not being able to get a full-time job. And then I guess the point of my question was that so I recently changed my major, and then I got into some computing. And then since I started so late, I don't think I could get an internship related to like engineers and computings in my third year. So I'm mostly looking for like consulting or business area that doesn't really require hard skills. But as a fourth year, I want to get into an internship that is actually kind of related to what my interest is. But I'm just worried that I saw most of the people getting offers by the time when they're graduating. And then because I'm just looking for an internship as a graduate, I feel like I'll be behind everyone. And especially if I'm an international student, I feel like I'll be wasting my chance of like OPT and stuff. So I guess I just wanted like advice or like experience on this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm in a similar position as you. I also switched into data science in my third year. So I didn't have any hard skills, and I was looking into consulting as well. So I think I would recommend that for your third year internship, doing something in consulting will be no worries at all. As long as it's something, you just need to have some data in it to pass the requirement. But don't worry at all if you couldn't find an internship that isn't exactly a hard skill requirement. And then for your fourth year, you can continue to look for internship or full-time role as well. Once you have that like degree preparation, then you can look into full-time roles, not just internship as well. So I think junior year, apply for whatever internship, analyst, consulting, and then also just start practicing like hacker rank, start grinding the coding interview as well, because for my experience, the first step is to pass the coding experience, the coding test. And once you pass that, your chances are actually quite high. So start practicing those coding tests as well. So yeah, apply to whatever internship you can while developing your hard skills. And then in your senior year, you should be able to apply to both internships and full-times in your field. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
I think for me, it's more of a personal advice, or I've seen some trends on campus as well. I know that in the finance industry, sometimes if you really want to go into like investment banking, you have to recruit on a certain timeline. I've seen even just locals lengthen their time of education just so that they can be eligible for it. If financially you're okay with that, that could be a possibility so that you can get more exposure to the industry as you're figuring things out. Add on another minor, add on another major, that may help. Or, you know, take a reduced course load for some time, and you'll be able to explore those options as well. I guess that's just my what I think may be possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions here?
Hi, my name is Vasista. Apologies for the background noise. I'm in the library right now. Right, so my question was during the first internship, as far as I've checked online and asked a couple of people, especially the career center, it said that the first internship is typically the one that places the most importance on your GPA. And all the other internships, they kind of like assess your impact or what impact you made during your first internship. How well accurate would you say this is? And if it is, then besides the GPA, what can we do to improve our chances?
I guess I just wanted to make note. I don't necessarily think GPA is the one factor that makes a difference. I think GPA is very subjective, and a lot of employers, it really depends on the employer, right? We had an employer on campus on Tuesday who said that they don't care about GPA, while others actually, you have to have a very high GPA on your resume to be screened and interviewed. So it's really dependent on the employer. It's dependent on the industry. And so it's not a one size fits all about the GPA. But if you're talking about more generally speaking, is it important to your first internship to, you know, is that important? I would say yes, of course. Any industry position is going to, you know, have an importance in your future about what you learn, how you pivot, and how you move forward. And it's good to have an internship on your resume. So I'll just say from the career perspective, having experience is critical. And making a good, strong first impression is also very critical if you want to sustain a long-term relationship at that company. But I'll pass it to our panelists to answer that question.
Yeah, I feel like there's the struggle of like, oh, you need to have experience to land a job, but then you need a job to get experience. So for that first internship, I would just say on top of maintaining good GPA, you don't need a 4.0, I think in most industries, but a good GPA, then put some side projects on your resume. maybe you did a project in your class, then you should write a report or do some graphs. So if you don't have or intern at an organization on campus, I actually interned with Grace as an outreach coordinator. So working on campus, working volunteering, doing projects on your own, these are all things that will help to get that first internship.
Also, like I've seen in the labs that I've been in, even if people don't want to do academia and they want to go to the industry, they gain so much experience in the labs and high quality recommendation letters as well from, and also like you can also like try joining labs that are well connected to industry. There are so many labs that have collaborations within the industry, so you can like, work there. And even if it is as a volunteer, you get like very good recommendations at the end of it, and they land really good jobs after they graduate. I've seen that happen. So it's just a tip.
I got it. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? How important is is networking, right? In finding not only an internship, but maybe a job as well. Like how important is it to make those connections and maybe mentorships, right? In the journey of career and networking search.
I think it's definitely important, but depending on your timeline, it might not be a priority. If you're already looking into applying internship in the summer, you might want to focus more on just working your resume. I think networking is something you try to prepare a little bit earlier so you can build that relationship. I think referrals are definitely helpful. When I did the interview for interns, when you have a referral code, you show up like highlighted on the list. So having a referral, even if it's from an entry-level person, will highlight your name. So it definitely helps. Just remember that these application cycles vary depending on industries, and sometimes companies will just close an app when they get like 100 applicants. So don't spend too much time on networking if you're already on a time crunch to send in those apps. That's what I think. Yeah.
Diva, would you want to elaborate? Otherwise, I will share a little bit here. In my industry, it's very important to network, and sometimes you can get to you can skip so many rounds of interviews and get to the final rounds just because you know someone and someone is vouching for you because you have networked with them, they believe in you, and they can see you performing on that job. So for me, even in I guess like during my time in New York, it was the coffee chats, the networking doesn't stop even if you're in that role. You're still going to be talking to people, you're still going to be learning from people, and that is all about career building, trying to understand more about the business and how you can grow from there. I realize we are coming up on time. Diva, if you'd like to answer this, and then we can proceed to close out.
Just gonna quickly mention networking is important in industry, academia, everywhere. Even like right now, when I'm applying to grad school, before I apply to any school, I network with the professors, or I try to, and I get like a one-on-one kind of like a chat on Zoom sometimes. That really helps push your application forward. So whether it's industry or academia, anywhere, honestly, networking is key. You gotta do that. As Jessica said, I think in the chat, networking is your lifelong. Yeah, your career is lifelong. Networking, I agree with it.
Yeah, thank you so much to the panelists here, ISEO, as well as the Career Center. If y'all have questions regarding career development or work authorization, here are some links. I'm going to keep this page on for just a second here. Okay, and then just a plug that there are other events here hosted by ISEO. So feel free to take advantage of that, and feel free to reach out to any one of us, Jasmine, Diva, Jessica, Jose, Grace, as well as myself. Feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any following up and any questions that you'd like to follow up. And I guess we'll see you the next session. Go out there, be brave, and have a great internship. Thank you all.